Please put all your mobile phones on silent. Please kindly also fill in the questionnaire so we can get your feedback to further develop upcoming forms. In the name of Almighty Allah, the Compassionate and the Merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, peace be with all of you. On behalf of His Excellency Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Suwaidi, the Director General of the Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research, I would like to welcome all of you in this evening to this lecture entitled Sheikh Zayed and the Political Dimension of Tolerance, which will be given by Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi, Media Advisor and Lecturer at the United Arab Emirates. Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi began his professional career in Abu Dhabi in May 1969 as a news interpreter and presenter on the evening news for the Abu Dhabi British TV company. He first met the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan on October the 21st in the year 1969 as he covered the fourth meeting of the Union of the Nine Emirates in Madif, Abu Dhabi. Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi declared on the 2nd of December 1971, Dr. Al-Qudsi broadcast the unification of the Emirates from Jumeirah and the unification of the armed forces on May 6, 1967, and also the establishment of the Gulf of the Cooperation Council at its first summit in Abu Dhabi on May 25th in the year 1981. He also broadcast Sheikh Zayed's speech, God bless his soul, and his meetings during the October 1973 war, and reported on the liberation of Kuwait and many other major events. After the late Sheikh Zayed passed away, he published his book, Sheikh Zayed, Third of the Two Omars. He also worked on two textbooks on the moral approach of the late Sheikh Zayed. Dr. Qudsi holds a Bachelor of Arts from Damascus University and a Diploma in Education, and also a Master's of Comparative Literature from Cairo University and a PhD in Political Media with a particular focus on media during international crises, which he gained while studying in the USA. Now I'd like to call upon Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi to give his speech. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. In the name of Almighty Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, peace be with all of you. First, it's a great honor and a great pleasure for me to meet here at the Emirate Center for Strategic Studies and Research after it had spent 25 years full of success and achievements under the capable leadership of His Excellency Dr. Jamal Sanad Al-Suwaidi. The other point that I would like to highlight is that here we convene to talk about the person who is the most beloved person for me, the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, because he was the pivot and the cornerstone of every single development in the United Arab Emirates since its inception and until he passed away, God bless his soul. When we talk about the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, we talk about the situations and the stances that he adopted, and not just heroic rhetoric. He stood and took great stances in the Arab world and to friendly countries. He expressed his opinion, and he would either interfered or being asked to interfere as a mediator to resolve solutions, to resolve situations and to offer solutions. He called this all establishing friendly relationships. It's the same meaning of tolerance, but in his mind he always wanted to mend relationships. This great aspect of tolerance goes back to the deep roots of the people of the United Arab Emirates, as embodied in a tangible reality of the life of the late Sheikh Zayed, who is followed in his footsteps by His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the year, God bless him, and their Highnesses His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister of Dubai, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces. All of them, in addition to the brothers, the members of the Supreme Council, the rulers of the Emirates. The late Sheikh Zayed, as I said, he had great stances in reality, in the tangible reality. In every single important development, he would give his input and make active efforts to mend relations at the Arab or the international level. The late Sheikh Zayed ruled the UAE for 58 years. He spent 20 years in Al-Ain, then as ruler of Al-Ain and representative of the ruler in the eastern region from the year 1946 until the year 1966. Then he became president of the United Arab Emirates until he passed away in November in 2004, 58 years. One day I said to him, after the flag was hoisted, I said to him, also his mediate sense, we can never overlook how important it is. After the flag was hoisted, he looked at me, and I had the photographer with me. He got the image, and once he looked at me, it means that if he's looking at you, he's asking something from you. You have to do it very efficiently. So I went quickly to him and I congratulated him on hoisting the flag, and I recorded his speech on Thursday at 12:55 at the Jumeirah when the flag was hoisted there. The late Sheikh Zayed said, congratulations to the people of the United Arab Emirates. This journey until we have materialized the dream of our ancestors in the United Arab Emirates. At this point, I said, after we turned off the camera, I said I have recorded a message to the TV of Abu Dhabi TV, and I said that this journey took 1,348 days to have this flag hoisted. It's the longest journey in history. He said, how did you come up with this figure? I said that on the first day, when you traveled to Dubai to meet the late Sheikh Rashid, God bless his soul, to look into how UK in January 1968 declared that it is willing to withdraw from the eastern side of Suez Canal, including the Gulf, the Arab Gulf region. So on that day, on February 1968, you started talking about and discussing and looking into the implications of this British withdrawal, and then from Dubai you established the union between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and from that day and up till the 18th of February 1968 and until Thursday, the 2nd of December 1971, we counted 1,847 days until the flag was hoisted. As I mentioned, among the examples that I've listened to and were mentioned by the late Sheikh Zayed in terms of mending relationships at the local level. For example, when he was in Al-Ain, he was arranging for the borders. The difficult work was in Al-Ain and not in Abu Dhabi, when he was a representative of the ruler in the eastern region and a ruler of Al-Ain. In Abu Dhabi, there was nothing wrong. Everything was easy and simple. But in Al-Ain, it was difficult because there were tribes and there were intermingling borders, not just among the tribes, but also with the adjacent and bordering countries as well. He sent a message, the late Sheikh Zayed sent a message to the ruler of Sharjah in the 1950s when he said, Your Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al-Qasimi, ruler of Sharjah, when he stated that to me, he said, ruler of the Sheikhdom of Sharjah in the 1950s. Peace be with all of you. We received your letter with great pleasure. And with regards to what you have mentioned in terms of the borders, we would like to say that it is one border and we have no borderlines, and there is no trespassing between us and you. It's the same land. Please be informed. God bless you that we are brothers. And we talked last year that we need to pinpoint the borders from Al-Aqidat to the Thaus until Faw and Faga and Al-Nakhra. He pinpointed specific locations. And if Your Highness do not approve of this, we are willing to move towards a solution that would be more convenient to you. This great speech and this great letter, we are willing to achieve whatever is convenient to you. So if you request a bigger slice of land, we are willing to give it to you. This is the concept of tolerance in practice, to maintain brotherly relations in a strong and steadfast manner, to give in order to maintain strong relationships with your brothers. Of course, in Al-Ain, he faced of course many issues with Al-Ain, and it was difficult there to rule at many levels. Dealing with the UAE nationals, resolving solutions, resolving issues that have to do with social status, with marriage and divorce, or disagreement over a piece of land. Just like any community, there were many needs for his intervention to maintain a peaceful and a happy community in the Eastern region. As I mentioned, His Highness became the ruler of Abu Dhabi after spending 20 years as the ruler of Al-Ain on Saturday, the 6th of August, 1966. And he had in mind a vision, a clear vision, as he said. The late Sheikh Zayed said, the first point is building a modern Abu Dhabi to be a modern capital. Second point, gathering his brothers in a council that would develop the reconciled Emirates to gather them in a union. The third point that he had in mind was coordinating the foreign policy of the Arab states of the Gulf, which resulted in the establishment of the GCC on the 25th of May 1981. So he had three key objectives, and he implemented each and every single one of them. Praise be to Almighty Allah. So while he was establishing modern Abu Dhabi step by step, and in less than 1 year and a half, as I mentioned, there was the declaration of Britain to withdraw, that it will withdraw from the eastern side of the Suez Canal, including the Arabian Gulf. After that, very quickly, he had a meeting with the late Sheikh Rashid in Dubai in February 1968. On the following day, to look into the future aspect and the future development for the region after the withdrawal of Britain. It was really a major concern back then. On the following day, the late two leaders declared, in the 18th of February 1968, declared the establishment of a union between the Emirate of Dubai and the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. The late Sheikh Zayed would be the president, and the Sheikh Rashid will be his vice president. The union would tackle four basic issues that have to do with foreign affairs, defense, and key other aspects, and each other would tackle the other issues. So this is not the key objective here. The objective, let's say, the focus on mending relations, that on the 18th of February, the two great leaders, the great wise leaders back then, established another agreement, which is ending the dispute with regards to the maritime borders between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. This also, the borderlines, the maritime borderlines in this case, they set 10 kilometers alongside the coast and 10 kilometers inside until the oil field, which became completely, the late Sheikh Zayed left it or gave it completely and provided entirely to the Emirate of Dubai that specific oil field. The two parties in Samih on the 18th of February signed the agreement in which they said that the maritime borders between Abu Dhabi and Dubai starts from Ras Qasiyan, moving north to the northwestern side to the west of Fatah oil field. And since the two signatories to this agreement would like to rearrange the borderlines for the benefit of the people of the two Emirates, we have agreed that this oil field would be completely granted to the Emirate of Dubai, and the mentioned region will be part of Dubai property and Dubai assets. The great sign of tolerance in this regard, what I listened myself to what he said, the Sheikh Zayed said after a few months while we were planting trees in the western region and witnessing activities there, I asked him, Your Highness, how was the action when you presented this oil field to Sheikh Rashid? Sheikh Rashid asked Zayed, how come you are giving me this area, this large area, 10 kilometers alongside the coastline, and 10 kilometers after signing the unification of the two Emirates and the union between them? The late Sheikh Zayed said, when the right hand gives to the left hand, now we are one body. The two Emirates have become one body. When the right hand gives to the left hand, nothing is lost. This is the epitome of tolerance, which I believe we has never seen such an example of tolerance as manifested by the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul. We have become a single body. So when the first hand gives to the left hand, nothing is lost. Imagine this figurative speech and this highly important example of tolerance. From the same perspective, as I've mentioned, the late Sheikh Zayed, the historic leader who shaped history, the late Sheikh Zayed shaped history. He was not supported by a political party or an electorate that he would seek to please. The late Sheikh Zayed had the full support of the people of the UAE and all the rulers of the UAE and all the other nations that have considered the UAE their homeland. So while leaders worldwide have a 4-year term and then they leave, the late Sheikh Zayed could never be forgotten. The late Sheikh Zayed was a leader who shaped history with all its details. Another important example of tolerance for the late Sheikh Zayed that I witnessed myself in the year 1975, the late Sheikh Zayed, before the issue of the maritime coastal line and border line. In the year 1975, the late Sheikh Zayed had specific points that he believed that they were negative points that have not been fulfilled or achieved yet. Yet he kept it in silence and he did not ask anyone to make any changes. He had in his mind, he did not really like those points, but he observed them silently. In the first week of November, we were with him, with a number of media experts. The dinner was over in like 1 hour. While on his way out, one of the journalists asked him, Your Highness, how can we underscore the union? He was about to leave the hall. And the late Sheikh Zayed said to him, I wished to see the UAE Emirates integrating with one another and not just separate entities. And then he left. On the same evening, this message was conveyed to His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Mohammed Al-Qasimi it was conveyed by a dear colleague, Mr. Saeed Amara, an Egyptian journalist who established Sharjah radio at the time of the late Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed Al-Qasimi. He was with us, then he traveled to Sharjah and conveyed the message to Sheikh Sultan. Sheikh Sultan, His Highness Sheikh Sultan asked how did the dinner go out and so on. He conveyed this message. Mr. Saeed Amara conveyed this message as is. On the 5th of November 1975, we heard from Sharjah Radio a speech by Dr. Sultan Al-Qasimi in which he declared that all the departments of the Emirate of Sharjah will be associated with the federal ministries entirely, in their entirety. Then Sheikh Sultan gave an order to bring down Sharjah flag and to keep the flag of the Union hoisted in Sharjah. I was asked to go quickly to Qasr al-Bahr with a photographer we found a helicopter that was ready. It took us, and the late Sheikh Zayed arrived with Ahmed Khalifa Suwaidi and Sheikh Mubarak bin Mohammed Al Nahyan, God bless his soul. They went into the helicopter. Then it took us all to Sharjah, where we were welcomed by Sheikh Mohammed bin Sultan Al-Qasimi. He welcomed us. They sat together for a few minutes. Then we had a press conference for Sheikh Sultan, and everybody was on their way out, and on his way out of Sharjah Radio, one of the journalists asked the late Sheikh Zayed, Your Highness, what about this great initiative by Sheikh Sultan? The same words that he said in the evening, very quickly he said, the late Sheikh Zayed said very quickly, I hope to see all other Emirates following the example of Sharjah on the 6th of November. On the 15th of November, that was on the 6th of November, on the 15th of November 1975, we had the Supreme Council convening in Abu Dhabi, and everybody started following in the example of Sharjah government or the Emirate of Sharjah. So this is a kind of silent tolerance. He never told anyone before that date what he wanted or what he had in mind. At the Arab level, there were many events and developments. Either he was asked to intervene because they know that he could help, or out of his ethical and Arab nationalism feelings, he would intervene. So, how far a certain event would affect the Arab national security? The 1973 war in October, he called it in his mind the fight for Arab dignity. So in his mind, he had a concept, a specific concept. He called that war the battle or the fight for the Arab bride, and he submitted all kinds of support for this battle. One of the disputes that the late Sheikh Zayed was asked to intervene in is the dispute in the wake of the 1973 war between Egypt and Libya. There was a dispute between Egypt and Libya. After the 1973, the war that was waged by Egypt and Syria to liberate Syria, to liberate Sinai and Julan, which had been occupied since the year 1967, Gaddafi said that he supported Egypt with a number of weapons and airplanes and so on. It was difficult for him to have a ceasefire. So a dispute erupted between him and the late President Sadat, and media campaigns started vehemently. They spent for 1 year and 4 months open media campaigns which contained harsh forms of criticism between two presidents of the two countries. The late Sheikh Zayed followed up on those campaigns. He intervened and he held a meeting between President Gaddafi and President Sadat on the 19th of November in the year 1974, and he reconciled them, and they hugged and kissed one another in an atmosphere of tolerance, and this is how he mended the relationship between them. The disputes between Egypt and Libya erupted once again in the year 1977, in July, when President Sadat wanted to start the peace process with Israel. Once again, President Gaddafi started waging campaigns that were even far more worse than the previous ones. Now skirmishes started on the borders. There were bombardment and prisoners of war. The late Sheikh Zayed communicated with President Sadat, and he flew to Cairo, and he asked President Gaddafi to come to Cairo, and once again he mended the relationship between them and reconciled them. He was tough. He adopted a tough language in that stance. He said that it is a disgrace to see two brothers fighting, two Muslim countries fighting one another. It's a shame to see that. There were skirmishes on the borders. So he reconciled the two countries. The late Sheikh Zayed reconciled them to mend the relationship between Arab countries. And in this context, the French President Valéry Giscard also embodied the stance by the late Sheikh Zayed by his words, by saying Valérie Jais Kurdistan. The late Sheikh Zayed was a very competent negotiator. He was really outstanding, and he had great wisdom and great insights. He joined many events as a mediator to reconcile two entities at the international level, the foremost of which is his intermediation to resolve the dispute between Egypt and Libya, and his attempt to reconcile Morocco and Algeria with regards to the dispute about the Western Desert. This is what the former French president said about the late Sheikh Zayed. So the French president highlighted the efforts of the late Sheikh Zayed to reconcile Egypt and Libya, Algeria and Morocco as well. So when there was a massive dispute between Algeria and Morocco, and it turned into an armed dispute and an armed conflict because of the dispute between the two countries, Mauritania, Polisario, and in that context and in those heated atmospheres, he gathered the Algerian president Hawari Boumediene and the king of Morocco. Both of them had great confidence in the late Sheikh Zayed, and therefore he managed to put out the fire at the beginning and put an end to a dispute that could have become much worse. President Boumediene, I remember what he said also in the war of 1973 when he said, how dare the United Arab Emirates, which is less than 2 years old, to boycott and to cut oil supplies from the USA. How dare the late Sheikh Zayed take such a bold step by cutting off oil supplies to the largest country and the most powerful country in the world. So this is on the sideline of tolerance. We have to mention this. Boumediene said this. How could the UAE dare to take that stance, and how the late Sheikh Zayed dare to cut off oil supplies to the world superpower back then? They said that the late Sheikh Zayed, the Western media said the late Sheikh Zayed started an additional front, and the late Sheikh Zayed used the weapon of oil for the first time in modern warfare. So another stance, the sectarian war in Lebanon in the year 1975, which continued until the year 1990. It had different forms, but it was started a sectarian war in the year 1975, in which the right wing and left wing participated, and sectarian parties participated in them, and massive destruction was caused to the public edifices and the infrastructure of Lebanon, and all other Arab countries were busy back then. Even the Arab League could not do anything to stop that sectarian war. The wise leader of Arabs, the late Sheikh Zayed, contacted the Lebanese president, and he immediately sent 500 million Lebanon lira back then, which had a different value back then, in aid to or in support of Lebanon. Then he asked the Secretary General of the Arab League to start an Arab summit in the name of the late Sheikh Zayed. And one of the resolutions of the summit is to establish the Arab protection forces, and the late Sheikh Zayed participated with 2 battalions from the United Arab Emirates armed forces in the Arab force, in the Arab Joint Military Force, which continued from 1976 to 1977, which started a great effort in dealing with landmines, and also participated with 600 million Lebanese lira in support of Lebanon back then. On another occasion, the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless him, was present in many other countries. The northern Yemen and the southern Yemen, there were skirmishes between the so-called democratic Yemen and the northern Yemen as well. And the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, and according to my work in the media, I listed 16 communiques between Ali Abdullah Saleh and Ali Salim al-Bayt and the late Sheikh Zayed in 1 month and a half. 16 communications between them in terms of direct communication, phone calls, telegrams, and communications between them. They were asking the Sheikh Zayed how far the mediation efforts managed, and the 1990 agreement was signed for the unity of Yemen. Here, in another context, another example, as I mentioned very clearly, because I lived it day by day, I keep seeing the same image when we. There was also the war between Somalia and Ethiopia because of the Ogaden region in the year 1977, which was occupied by Ethiopia, and Somalia tried to recapture that region as it is part of the Grand Somalia. Thousands of people were killed in that war. Ethiopia was supported by Democratic Yemen, Cuba, and it had military advisors from the Soviet Union. Somalia was supported by the United States of America, and thousands of people were killed in that war without any result until two delegations. One from Mengistu Haile Mariam, the head of the military council in Ethiopia, and the Somali president Mohammed Said Berri arrived in Abu Dhabi, and both of them made the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, and then Mohammed Said Berri came, and the late Sheikh Zayed, God bless him, God bless his soul, managed also to mend their relationships and to reconcile the two countries and to ensure a ceasefire, and Somalia withdrew from part of that region, and all of this thanks to the efforts of the late Sheikh Zayed, and these efforts were exerted in the city of Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. This is in terms of supporting countries, but also in dealing with human beings and tolerance with human beings and fellow men and fellow people. One day, I was witness to this. We visited Arkana under an invitation of Zulfaqar al-Bhutto. We traveled from Islamabad to Arkana in Al-Sind. One day, it was a one-day visit. It's a beautiful agricultural town and has great. He was welcomed, and the entire Al-Bhutto family was welcoming him. His Highness Sheikh Tahnoun was with him. Dr. Mani Said Al-Ateba, Khalif Al-Ateba, the Minister of Economy, was with him. Abdul Jalil Al-Fahim was with him, and Bitti bin Bashir was with the late Sheikh Zayed as part of the delegation. The late Sheikh Zayed spent the whole day there. The one-day visit ended after the hunting also was over. He made a donation to build a hospital for the people of that region in Pakistan. This takes me to the strong friendship between the late Sheikh Zayed and Zulfaqar Ali Bhutto. Who had held a number of positions, foreign minister, prime minister, and president, until the military coup took place in the year 1977, which was conducted by General Al-Haq, and Zulfaqar Ali Bhutto was arrested and was accused of being a murderer, and he received a death penalty. The late Sheikh Zayed intervened because he knew Zulfaqar Ali Bhutto, he had a very close relationship with him. He was a really nationalist Pakistan leader. He communicated with the Al-Haq and he released them. Bhutto submitted a petition but the court rejected his petition, and Zulfaqar received a promise to travel outside Pakistan, to come and to live in the United Arab Emirates. The Al-Haq said, Inshallah, I will do that. But the hunch and the foresight or the insight he received, he did not believe what the Al-Haq said. And on the 4th of April, Ali Bhutto was executed in the year 1978. The late Sheikh Zayed sent a telegram of condolences to the widow of Ali Bhutto. Also, a quick story about dedication and tolerance. The late Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, became the ruler of Abu Dhabi on Saturday, the 6th of August in the year 1966. On that day, and the protection force in Al-Husn, there was a Yemeni young man called Haidar al-Saidi. he offered great services to the late Sheikh Zayed, and on his first day at the ruler of Abu Dhabi, the late Sheikh Zayed did not forget the favor, and he kept this in his memory. After 10 years, in the year 1976, the late Sheikh Zayed visited Aden, and he was welcomed and greeted by the President Salim al-Bay Ali and the Prime Minister Ali Nasser Mohammed. A great delegation was in welcoming him in Yemen, and the late Sheikh Zayed donated the Aden refinery repair costs and the airport repair costs, and also some fisheries and many housing units. And he asked them, he said that there was a man called Haydar Said. Where is he? Where he is? I want to see him. Then they started looking to one another. Haydar Saidi, it seems that he was against the regime of Salim al-Bay'a and Ali Nasser Mohammed. Ali Salim al-Bay'a sent someone to bring Haydar Saidi from Al-Juf. It was a very distant town in Yemen. Haydar Saidi was very scared when someone knocked on his door. One of the officials knocked on his door, and he said to him, "Don't be afraid. The president of the United Arab Emirates wants to meet you." Then Haydar Saidi felt safe, and then he head to Al Mdawwar Palace, if the memory serves me. Then he hugged the late Sheikh Zayed. The late Sheikh Zayed 10 years later hugged him and met him, and he knew that the situation that he was facing, and Salim al-Bay'a was not happy with him, and Nasser Mohammed Haydar, and he asked all the three of them to reconcile and to shake hands and to hug one another and to forgive one another. And this is exactly what happened. And he said to them, the late Sheikh Zayed, he said to the President Salim al-Bay'a Ali, "With your permission, your Excellency, I want to take my friend Haydar back with me to Abu Dhabi on the same airplane, so he would live with his family in the United Arab Emirates." And this is what happened. His family still lives in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi as nationals of the UAE, and they are very close to the soul and spirit of the late Sheikh Zayed. Thank you, and may Almighty Allah have mercy on the late Sheikh Zayed, on whose name we have, may Almighty Allah have great blessings on the late Sheikh Zayed. God bless his soul. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed, for this valuable lecture. And now we'll open the floor to the questions. Please, if you have any question, please stand up, introduce yourself, and make your question as brief as possible, please. Any question, I will answer it. About the late Sheikh Zayed, I will answer your questions, whatever they are. From the very beginning of the union until the end of November. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed, for this valuable lecture, which took us back to the glory days of establishing the union. The late Sheikh Zayed, tolerance was one of his inherent qualities, but this quality took a great dimension since he was the ruler and president of the. With your permission, I would like to touch upon a piece of information that you have said about Haydar Saidi. Haydar Saidi, he was an officer in the Southern Army in Aden. In the 1956, Britain asked them to come and to defend Premi. He was an officer, and when he faced difficult circumstances, he came to the late Sheikh Zayed, and the late Sheikh Zayed welcomed him, and he became a UAE national, Your Excellency. The ECSSR has made great strides, and now it is leading, shaping the Emirati intellect. This great accumulation and knowledge, we want them We want this kind of knowledge to become a qualitative event in terms of reconciliation and tolerance. We have seen the epitome of that where the Sheikh of Al-Azhar and the Pope of Vatican met in the capital Abu Dhabi. Here in the UAE, we need to have leaders from the people who are following in the footsteps of the late Sheikh Zayed. Our rulers, God bless all of them, they have made great achievements. So it is now our duty as the community of the UAE to have those who can represent us in terms of reconciliation. Let's say the Nobel Prize is a symbol of peace and tolerance. I propose, it's a personal proposal. Why don't we have here, and this is my own opinion, my personal opinion, why don't we call for a meeting with the Arab Jews? Arab Jews are part of us from Palestine, from Yemen, from Iraq. Why don't we have a meeting with them so we can express tolerance and follow in the footsteps of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he dealt with his Jewish colleague. God bless you. The great initiative that was supervised by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in terms of the humanitarian and the great sign of tolerance in the meeting between the Pope of the Vatican and Dr. Mohammed Ahmad Al-Tayyib, the Sheikh of Al-Azhar. It is one of the most sublime examples of tolerance. I hope that all Arab countries and Islamic countries would follow in his footsteps. Without this initiative, in the Arab community in general, we are having this tolerance and coexistence between all religions. Religion is to Almighty Allah. Whether someone is a Muslim or a Christian or a Sikh or whoever the deity that he worships, this is something between him and his Creator, Almighty Allah. Praise be to Almighty Allah. But we live on the same land. For example, in the United Arab Emirates, we live together with all people from all walks of life, from all religions and different civilizations. We live together and we live for the benefit of everyone. And this approach should be really permitted and boosted in all the Arab countries. And I do hope that this great spirit which emanated from the UAE would prevail in other parts of the Arab world. As for Haidar Saidi, the story I heard it word by word from Ali Nasser Mohammed, the Prime Minister of Yemen 2 years ago. He was visiting the UAE and I met him and he told me this full story because he one of the people who attended was President Ali Salim al-Bay'a. The Sheikh Zayed, God bless his soul, this is an example. Another example, in Eids, in the inauguration of Al-Khalidiyya school, Al-Ikhbirat school, he inaugurated himself for non-Muslim expats. This was another great example of tolerance. This shows that the spirit of tolerance is part and parcel of the Emirati community since its inception and not a new phenomena. But the great initiative for the meeting and the summit between the Sheikh of Al-Azhar and the Pope of the Vatican is meant to revive and to highlight these two roots of tolerance. Another intervention, please. Thank you. I am Dr. Samir Ali. First, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi. Actually, your lectures are always wonderful. My question, if you had, with your experience, with your long-standing experience, and the long time you spent with the late Sheikh Zayed, and the long time you spent in the United Arab Emirates and this exquisite community, God bless him. With all this long-standing experience, if we request from you to wish for something for this current Arab situation that we live, what would you wish for? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Samir. sometimes we would wish for something that is impossible to happen. I hope that we would have a Sheikh Zayed, a similar leader like Sheikh Zayed in every Arab country. Because if the late Sheikh Zayed, very quickly, another very quick example, if the late Sheikh Zayed had been living with us now, he would have never left a single inch in the Arab world, or a single leader or a single official to sleep tightly while everything is as is. He would have asked them to intervene and to take action, and at least as he did in the sectarian war in Lebanon. Imagine how he convened a summit and asked the Arab League. The Arab League was in a state of trance back then. He asked them to convene a summit in his own name, and he did. So if the late Sheikh Zayed had still been with us, he would have done his very best to convene Arabs and unify them, because it seems that Arabs do need a great leader, a strong leader who can give directions and follow up on them and be trusted and loved and by everyone, and be fully aware and has this high level of ethical insights and this Arab nationalist feeling that the late Sheikh Zayed had. Maybe in the future we would have such developments, God willing. Another intervention, please. Peace be with all of you. Peace be with you, Dr. Mohammed. My name is Dr. Suud Ghanam. We are very happy to have Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi with us today. And he always highlights this great history and wonderful legacy that all of us learn from. Dr. Samir asked you, what is your wish for the Arab world? Now I would say, what is my wish? I hope that this great history and this great knowledge that you represent and all the things that you have lived with the late Sheikh Zayed, I hope that you would be working on textbooks that would reflect the great legacy of the late Sheikh Zayed, so that the young generation would learn how to have this far-sighted vision, and how a country that established itself from inside the desert to become one of the top countries of the world, and even surpassed some developed countries. I hope that the new generation, young people, would learn and study this great legacy and heritage. And thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. It's always an honor and pleasure to see you. God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Suhair. Any effort requires a leader. The late Sheikh Zayed was a great leader in every sense of the word. That's why, as I said, the word leader, as I should say, he was really a leader who shaped history. He started in Abu Dhabi, Al-Ain. He did not have any resources in Al-Ain. Yet he developed agriculture, unified the tribes, drew the border lines between the tribes. Even with the agreement of the borderline arrangements between the Emirate of Abu Dhabi and the Sultanate of Oman, Sheikh Shakhbout supported Sa'id bin Taymour, the father of Sultan Qaboos. They exchanged the borderlines, drawn the borderlines between the Emirate of Abu Dhabi and Sultanate of Oman, and one of the articles of the agreement said the credit for the success of this agreement goes to the communication between His Highness Sheikh Sultan and His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. He didn't have any resources back then. They started exporting oil in the year 1962 from the maritime oil fields or the offshore oil fields, and from Al-Dhanna mountain. We didn't really have much income back then. 5% only of the income came from the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. He assumed power in Abu Dhabi, and there was also a very small budget back then. We need also a humanitarian leader from the very beginning. The UAE nationals started to congratulate him and Al-Husn Sir in the 6th of August 1966, and they started complaining. 15,000 people living in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. They started complaining to the leader, Sheikh Zayed. They didn't have any work to do. They didn't have any money. They don't have money to spend on their families. On the same day, he asked for the representative of the British bank and the Ottoman bank back then, and he asked for the amount of money that they had for the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, and he said, we have $60 million, which is the 5% of the income given to the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, and 40 million from the other income from other resources. He asked them to bring in cash a large amount of money, and they were put in envelopes. And in the evening, a long line started with the residents of Abu Dhabi. From every single day, people, UAE nationals started coming from Dubai, from Ras Al Khaimah, from Sharjah, because he started giving them daily expenses and giving them amounts of money for them to spend this. This is an amount of money I entrust with you, and Almighty Allah be my witness. Give this to your families and spend on your families. Mr. Ahmed Dawood, who was in the Owners Court back then, they found that the amount of money spent by the Sheikh Zayed in 1 week to the UAE nationals was $20 million. This leadership cannot be compared with any other leadership in the sense that he was giving limitlessly. As I said, tolerance of mending relations was supported by his great generosity and giving. Another example, in the October War of 1973 in London, he gathered the representative of 5 major banks in London, and he selected London Midland Bank, and he borrowed, the Sheikh Zayed borrowed from it $100 and transferred that amount of money to be transferred to Egypt, based on a request by the General Hosni Mubarak, the leader of the Air Forces in Egypt. He received the support from the Sheikh Zayed. He believed firmly in those values. That's why the leadership style of the Sheikh Zayed was a very important one. Thank God, the current leaders of the UAE, God bless them, we still have this great fabric which started from the Sheikh Zayed, continuing on to His Highness Sheikh Khalifa, to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. All of them follow in the footsteps of the Sheikh Zayed to continue to ensure that the UAE will continue to thrive in the future and be always successful. So this, the credit for all of the success goes back to the leadership. Secondly, the circulars, or let's say the content that we can shape, should be communicated to all students and to all students in schools and universities to reflect the true image of the dimensions and the factors that shaped the heart and mind of the late Sheikh Zayed, because his leadership style was an exquisite one, a leadership that is well needed and very much needed these days in the entire Arab world and under these circumstances. With this, we come to conclusion of this lecture. In conclusion of this lecture, once again, I would like, in the name of His Excellency Dr. Jamal Sanad Suwaidi, the Director General of the Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research, once again, I would like to thank Dr. Mohammed Al-Qudsi, and I would like to thank all of you for your kind attendance. And until we meet again in other lectures and symposiums, thank you very much, and peace be with all of you.